In this tutorial, we're going to use the Boolean Modeler to create the window frame and to open the wall for the door and create the door panel. Now, the Boolean Modeler is a process that takes place between two basic pieces of polygon geometry. It's a matter of subtracting or adding the geometry to get the desired shape. Before I start the Boolean process for a door and window, I'm going to hide the chair and tables. And to do that, I'll first turn off the walls and floor. And now I can see that I've got the chairs and the tables separate. And now I'll turn off the layer with the table. And I can see that my chairs have not been added to a layer yet. So I'll marquee select all four chairs. I'll go over to the layer window. And on the table layer, I will right click and choose Add Selected Objects. And you'll see they'll disappear now because they've been added to that layer. That layer has been hidden by clicking on the V at the very left-hand side of the layer. Now I'm going to turn my walls and floor back on. We're going to put a door on the right-hand wall over here. I'm going to start by creating a cube. I'll hit 4 on the keyboard so I can see the wireframe and make it a little easier to manipulate the cube and put it into position visually. I'll go to Create Polygon Primitive and Cube. I'll click anywhere in my viewport and I'll go to my orthographic views. And I'm going to set them for 4. Now, if I were to hit A on the keyboard with a cursor over any of the windows, it puts everything that's in that view. I want this to go against this wall over here. I'll place my cursor over the front view and tap the space bar to go to that view. And I'm going to start to put this into position and scale it. And I'm just going to scale this so it's kind of the size of a door. We're not looking for accuracy here. This is just for function. And what I need to make sure is that that newly made polygon penetrates through the surface that we want to use for the door opening. Now, when I create a door, rather than have to go back and make a new door once I punch the hole in, what I usually do is duplicate the geometry that I want to use for the door opening. So if I hit Command D and drag that out off my viewport, and I'll scale it to just illustrate, that's going to be my door. So rather than do twice the work trying to fit a newly made cube to the opening, I've duplicated and put it off to the side. Now, in order to put a hole in this wall, I select what I want to keep, which is the wall. I shift select the surface that will do the subtracting for me. I'll hold down the space bar. I'll go to Mesh, Booleans, and Difference. And you'll see now if you would hit 5 on the keyboard to go back to your geometry filled in, there's your opening, and there's the door surface that once it's done will have a texture on it. I'll leave that off to the side a bit. Now that we have the door made, we're going to go ahead and put a window on the opposite wall. Now, rather than create a brand new cube and put it into position, very often what I'll do is select the cube that comprises the wall. And I'm going to go to the side view where I'm looking straight at it. And I'm going to center the pivot. And I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate. Because when I hit Command D to duplicate and R to scale, I can drag the shape of the window I want from that duplicated wall. I'm going to go to my perspective view now, and if I hit 4 on the keyboard, I can see there's that newly made polygon embedded in the wall. Now I have to give it enough thickness so that it goes through both sides of the wall surface. I'll hit R on the keyboard, and I'll drag on the y-axis in this particular instance to give it the thickness that I need. Now, just like the door, I'm going to use a polygon of this size afterwards to make the window frame. So I'll hit W, Command D to duplicate, and I'll pull that off to the side. Now, in order to put the hole in the wall now for that future window frame, I select the wall because that's the surface I want to keep. I shift select the surface that will be subtracting. I'll hold down the space bar, go to Mesh, Booleans, Difference, and I'll hit 5 on the keyboard, and now we can see that we've got the opening for our window. Now that we have the opening for the doors and window, I want to customize that window frame a bit. I'm going to hide the walls and floor. Now what you'll notice is that once you've edited a piece of geometry, it no longer is added to the layer you might have assigned it to. So when I click off on V, the floor and the window have disappeared. What I'm going to do is add the walls back to that layer. So I'll shift select them, and I'll right click on the layer to walls and floor, and I'll choose add selected. Now when I turn that off, everything is gone. Now I do want to keep the window though. So I'll click on the window shade, and I'll right click and choose remove selected object. When I turn that off, the window remains on screen. I'm going to start by hitting R on the keyboard, and I'm going to make the window frame the thickness I want it to be. Now I want some openings in this, but rather than create a brand new polygon cube, I'm going to go to the side view, and I'll hit F on the keyboard to get close. I'll hit Command D to duplicate, much the same way we did for the window and door opening. I'll drag it to the size I want, and I'll put it into position, and I'll start to duplicate and populate this area with a few more. But before I do, I'm going to go to my perspective view. I'll hit 4 on the keyboard, and I'm going to give this the thickness that I need to penetrate through that window frame on either side. Now that I've got the thickness of the shape I want, I'm going to return to my side view. I'll hit W, Command D to duplicate, and I'll start to drag a few extra window panes into position. I'll shift select these 3, hit Command D to duplicate, and I'll drag those down. Now if need be, I can shift select all of them, and I'll just move them and make them a little bit more centered. Now, the way the Boolean Modeler works is that I can only subtract one surface from another at a time. The way around that is to select the geometry that will subtract from the surface we want to keep, in this case our window frame. So I've got them all selected. I'll hold down the space bar, and I'll go to Mesh, Boolean, and then Union. And they will all turn green. Maya perceives this to be one piece of geometry, which means all I need to do now is select the window frame, shift select the combined geometry, spacebar down, Mesh, Booleans, and Difference. And now I have my window frame.